they gave him a 4.2 grade as a pass protector out of 100.
That's out of 100. Yeah, just in case you're scoring at home, that's out of 100. Mac and Mac guys here on Birds 365. John McMullen, Jody McDonald on a Tuesday after a Eagles defeat at the hands of the San Francisco 49ers at the Link 17-10. We talked plenty about the game yesterday, and we're doing so more so again today. But today is more about Nick Sirianni and his thoughts after the game and how he reacted and how he will react with the team leading up to next week's game against the Cowboys. And as we move along on the week, we'll start to zero in more on the opponent this upcoming week, which shouldn't be hard to get people's attention with the boys on the sched. But, John, I did want to touch on what moves they have to make this week as far as the roster goes. Even before, and I teased it before we went to break, about the two major injuries they have with Brandon Graham and Brandon Brooks, both Brandon's going down. Another thing we found out yesterday was the fact that Zach Ertz was going into the COVID protocol, that he had tested positive, but he has also been vaccinated. So he's in a 5-day period whereby if he is asymptomatic, which he is as of right now, if he gets 2 consecutive negative tests, then he can rejoin the team and could possibly be good to go by the time we get to Monday night against the Cowboys. If he doesn't, if he can't pass the tests, well, then there's a possibility that he's going to miss Monday night's game. They had 3 tight ends elevated onto the roster for last week's game. If he's not good to go by Monday against the Cowboys, they go with just 2 tight ends. Are they going to add another tight end? Is Richard Rodgers still a possibility because he hasn't signed with anybody else? He's not on the Eagles practice squad, but he's got a good working relationship, and we know he knows the playbooks because he was in camp the entire time. How do they handle the tight end position if they cannot use Zach Ertz on Sunday?
Yeah, I mean, I think more than anything else, they'll just probably play a lot more 11 personnel with 3 receivers. Which, Nick probably would like to do anyway. So that would give him the added excuse. With Zach, yeah, he's vaccinated. So I get a kick out of the people shaming him. So he tested positive. As you mentioned, now, if he passes 2 tests, they have to be 24 hours apart, and the Eagles have the extra day, so that helps as well. But you have to be asymptomatic, so that we don't know. Is he asymptomatic? If he is, and in a lot of these instances with young, healthy people, he's probably going to play, and it probably won't be an issue. But we just have to wait and see. And see how that shakes out. But yeah, they could use that. They've Nick Eubanks on the practice squad, who's a rookie tight end from Michigan. They could elevate him to have the extra body at tight end. And yeah, Richard Rodgers has not signed anywhere, so they could bring him back for the upteenth time. But I don't know if they're going to go that route for the simple reason that Zach's going to be back pretty quickly. And if he does miss one game, and if you're a betting man, I would say he's not even going to miss the Dallas game. So ultimately, I don't think that one's going to be as big as an issue as obviously Brandon Graham and even to a lesser extent Brandon Brooks. But, Brandon, if he does go on IR, short-term IR, then you start to think, okay, what are they going to do at right guard for the short term? Say if it's 3 weeks or a little bit more than that. Well, I got to tell you, Jody, when I rewatched the game, Landon Dickerson was not good in pass protection. I mean, not good at all. It wasn't that. The first play he was in was the 91-yard play to Quez Watkins. That was noticeable to me because he got just bowled over.
He got knocked off his feet.
Yeah,
not
just
good.
And it was not good at all. And I thought he had settled down. Watching the game with the naked eye, it was not good. So then I went to Pro Football Focus. I'm not saying this is a record, but I got to pull this up. They gave him a 4.2 grade as a pass protector out of 100.
That's out of 100. Yeah, just in case you're scoring at home, that's out of 100.
Out of 100. Now, I don't know if that's a record, but I've never seen a grade that low. So we've talked about Landon a lot. Look, he's a young player. He's back at practice. He tore his ACL on December 19th. Last week was the first time he was back to practice as a full participant. So, I mean, he got thrown into the deep end of the pool. Obviously, it didn't work out very well. I think he's got a chance to be a good player, but maybe he's not ready. Now, the good news is you have Nate Herbig, who has played a lot of football, and maybe you do have to shift gears and say, okay, let's slow things down for Landon Dickerson. Let's start Nate Herbig. So I think that's going to be an interesting decision. And then as much depth as the Eagles have at defensive end, boy, I don't know how you replace Brandon Graham. I mean, I think Josh Sweat is a great player. He's going to be a really good player. In theory, you could just get your best two players on the field and flip sides. One of them, Derek Barnett or Josh Sweat. Whoever can handle the base end side a little bit better, they're not going to be Brandon Graham. They're just not. And Ryan Kerrigan is fine. Teron Jackson had a really difficult time as a rookie with Trent Williams, but that's to be expected. I mean, veteran players are going to have a bad day more often than not with Trent Williams. That is a big loss because that is a really good player. And I it's so weird to me. I've been talking about this for years. This is one of the best players in Eagles franchise history, and I think Eagles fans don't recognize it. I'm talking about Brandon Graham.
Let me go back to the offensive line before we go to the defensive side, because you said you did go back and you rewatched a little bit of the play of Landon Dickerson after he got into the game, and he quoted the Pro Football Focus grade, which was not bad, was hideous. His issue, his problem, the reason why he was getting beat, the reason why he did get such a poor grade, more strength, more speed. Was it more footwork, or was he just physically manhandled? And sometimes your footwork can lead to being manhandled. I know you're not an offensive line coach, but you're a student of football viewer to be able to discern something like that. I'd probably get a more detailed answer from Mr. Stoutland than I would Mr. McMullen, but I've only got you on the show here with me, so I've got to ask you.
Yeah, I'm not Jeff Stoutland.
Yeah, I'm not expecting you to be, but I'm going to ask you to do a little Stoutland analysis for me. What was the biggest issue with Dickerson as to why?
Well, I talked to Jeff Stoutland enough, so I'm gonna rely on that.
Okay, good.
I think it was leverage. Normally, I think you're right. When you have rookie players, rookie offensive linemen, they're generally not strong enough. They need a year or two in an NFL weight room to just focus on getting strong. That's not Landon. Landon is strong as a bull. So it was technique and leverage. And remember, he's also huge. He's 6'6" for a guard, for an interior player. So you have a lot of these defensive tackles who know how to play, and they just know leverage. They know you got to get low. Even Eric Armstead, who's a huge defensive end who slides inside, has been playing a long time. Low man wins. That's the old sentiment in the NFL. Doesn't matter how strong you are if you don't have that technique. So I would say strength is not the problem with Landon Dickerson. technique and fundamentals, and it's understandable because he hasn't played in so long, he hasn't practiced in so long, and I think he'll be fine long term. But short term, you might want to get Nate Herbig out there and sort of slow things down for Landon Dickerson. That would be the way I would go.
How big is Herbig? Tall. I'm talking size, not weight wise. If you want to give me weight too, feel free. But
Nate's much shorter, probably 6'2", I would say. He lost a lot of weight. It's 330, but he's probably down to about 305. He's listed. Now he's listed at 6'4". He doesn't look 6'4".
Yeah, he doesn't look 6'4" to me.
He
and Dickerson look like there's a pretty significant difference. Because I'll tell you, the guy who always makes me think about offensive linemen and leverage, specifically on the inside, guard, center, and like. That's Hollis Thomas. I did a bunch of shows with Hollis. I'm 6 foot, and I'm just 6 foot. I'm right at the line, 6 foot. Yeah, I might actually only be 5'11" and a half, but I call myself 6 foot. Oh, I got a good couple inches on Hollis. And they used to list Hollis as 6 foot, and I tell you for sure, no way Hollis Thomas was 6 foot. He was 5'11" at best, probably more like 5'10". But he was actually built like a fire plug. And he could get leverage on guys who were much bigger, much heavier than he was. He was built like I said, Matt Truck. He could physically move guys that outweighed him by 40 or 50 pounds. And he knew how to use his leverage like nobody else's business. Just stone cold tremendous at it. And yes, I was lucky enough to be able to hang with Hollis and talk about offensive line play with Hollis over many a year because he did shows at WIP with us for a long period of time. And I used to love to just get into the conversation with him about how you go about getting leverage. Some of the bigger guys he played against, I did notice and note to him, now, Hollis, I'm no offensive lineman in the National Football League, and I'm taller than you are. And he used to tell me, Jody, height means nothing. There are some places in the world where height does mean something, or length means something, but no, girth and leverage, much more important than height. When it comes to defensive line play in the National Football League. All right, as you can probably notice, we lost Johnny Mack. His feed went down. Don't know if we'll be punching him back up. I assume that's the case. We'll try and reestablish. In the meantime and in between time, why don't we take a quickie time out here on Birds 365? We'll try and reestablish with my partner, John McMullen. I'm Jody McDonald. He's Johnny Mack. We'll both be coming back here on Birds 365 in just a couple.